what is up? We are back with season 2 of the podcast, Spiritual Roundtable, with myself, Child of Balance, and Miss Keys of Wisdom 369. And it's about to get turned up a couple notches this season. Buckle up. We're back to what we do best: devil's advocate, expansive thinking, highlighting triggers and laughter, and so much more. Join us as we embark on a journey of unlocking spiritual potential. As always, we promise to give you what you need and only sometimes what you want. Let's get going, B. Do you ever just feel like a plastic bag drifting through the wind, wanting to start again? Oh, no, but seriously, do you ever just feel like you just been going around in a circle? And now I'm getting like, I now pronounce you Chuck and Larry. It's a circle. It's an eternal circle. And it keeps going forever. Like, do you ever just feel like you've just been traveling in this crazy ass circle, and then when you get back to the beginning, you're like, oh shit, I didn't need to do any of this, and I could have just cut right down the center had I known that that path was an option? Because I just feel like so much of the time we do things to convince our humanness that we have the capability of doing something.
Yeah.
Like, you know me and my examples, dude, but like, let's just fucking think about it for a second. If somebody asked you to jump 3 feet, you'd be like, okay, yeah, I know that humans can jump 3 feet. I know that when I'm playing with my friends, or when I was younger, or when I was running for my life from that dog, I leaped my motherfucking ass over that fence. You know, I had no problem getting 3 feet up in the air. But what happens when your trainer at the gym puts down a box in front of you and goes, jump up on the box? The box is like 18 inches. And you know damn well you've jumped higher than that. But why the hell does that box look so high? And why does plyometrics seem impossible? And why do you start telling yourself you can't do something when it's very much in your capability? You can do a bunny hop next to the box. The trainer's like, you're clearing the box every time. Now jump on the box. And all of a sudden you keep stumbling, can't get your fucking foot up there, you're hitting your shin, you're toeing the box, like you got all this crazy shit. And I always just wonder, like, we get in our heads so much, and we have to kind of deconstruct a little bit of our foundational belief system of what we believe ourselves possible and capable to do. Because, like, let's really think about it, dude. Like,
But you nailed it with the box. You already just nailed it with the box. But you did. You know you can do this. So your knowing showed you that you can bunny hop right next to the box, right? You clearing the box every time. That's your knowing. And not only that, your knowing has now proved it to you. Your humanness goes, oh, box, right? It's seeing you as separate from the jump. You already did it. You've already finished it. You've already completed it. It was never outside of you. But the second somebody put the box in front of you, your humanness then separated you from your knowing and goes, I can't clear the box.
and it always amplifies it. Why does people's, I want to say untrained, like their natural state of humanness, like, it always amplifies the hurdle, amplifies the obstruction, amplifies the problem, the thing that they're facing.
But does anybody ever think about this? Because probably it's just me, because I think weird shit all the time. But the second you say that, you're like, why does it amplify it? Great. Because it's not so much your humanness amplifying it as your knowing being amplified. So it's undeniable. It is telling you things, and it's not communicating to you in English. And your humanness is so busy trying to place it in something and make sense of it. And actually, you're not even trying to make sense of it. Something doesn't feel right about it, kind of like what we were saying in our podcast last week, that something just feels off. Because what's missing? It's you. You've placed yourself outside of it. You have placed yourself outside of it, and you're trying to make it make sense. But you're doing it in a fear-based way. You're doing it in a limited way. You're making challenges. You're thinking that you have to test yourself. You're waiting for the next lesson. When you already know who you are. You already know you can clear the box. You already know.
Well, that's what's so funny, because, like, the humanness in us and in everybody, you know, it really does crave certainty. and it
Yes.
craves distinction, and it craves, that type of being able to predict and that solidity to things. So when I think about that as far as constructs, when we go back to the circle idea, right? Like when you first get called to like step into your journeys and stuff like that, right? Like you're shifting out of something you already know. And now you're beginning to widen and expand, your thinking. But then if someone were to tell you that you can do level 10 right now, like, right, if your guides came in and you're like, you can do level 10 right now. Our humanist goes, whoa, and like pushes the brakes and goes,
I know.
whoa,
Yep.
I can't do level 10. I could maybe tackle level 2, but I can't achieve 10, right? That's our own self-belief. I can't achieve 10 right now. So then what do we find ourselves doing? And for most people, you find yourself sliding into a construct that your humanness tells you align with, right? That's your level right there. That spiritual construct, that healing journey, that step by step to where I know what's coming, I know how to go about it, I can't be wrong, right? It's a very safe construct for everything. It's that safety, security. I know what's happening. I know it. But then when you think about it, the box isn't changing, and this is where I get like to like the box isn't changing. Let's consider level 10 the top of the box, right? That plyometric box that your trainer was just like, jump your fat ass up on that box, bitch. Like, great. It's only 3 inches off the ground. Like, you could bunny hop it. You could skip with your child in your arms and still make it. But for whatever reason, the second they place it in front of you, you're like, I can't do this. Well, great. Now they're going to give you a little side step. Maybe they give you an exercise that's like half the size, right? So think of that as like your first spiritual construct, right? I'm chosen. That's everyone's first one. I'm chosen. I'm special, right? Like that's everyone's first construct. Fuck off if you don't think it is. It is. I don't
Yeah.
care if you. I don't care if you reject it. Doesn't matter if you went in it or not. But that's the first thing that you see. Bam,
Not
chosen.
even pause.
Like,
Even if it's not your first, you definitely have an awareness of it. You definitely have an
yep.
awareness of it. Whether it didn't resonate, whether there was just something
Well,
off,
that's
like
the thing
you,
is like you don't have to entertain every construct, but
yeah,
chances are you will see it plastered by everybody who's deeply in
yeah,
that construct all over the place because it plays on everyone's egos. But that's a whole different thing. So let's just say there's one construct. Great. Now you're in that construct. So guess what? You have a little side step that makes the box half as high. Now you're in that construct, you're feeling good, but then guess what? That construct can only go so far. They're so limited in every single construct that you will deal with that it has an endpoint and it just abruptly stops. And you're
yes,
even going to notice that when you're in it, you're like, wait, this doesn't make any sense. This contradicts how I feel about myself. This contradicts how I learned before. This contradicts that last construct I came out of. This contradicts itself, right? Like there's a lot of these overlapping things that you're going to
yes.
start noticing that's going to push you to go to the next construct, to do the next thing, to bridge to somewhere else, to expand to something different, right? Because the idea is not for you to stay in the construct. It's not for you to stay in the healing journey. It's not for you to stay in the shadow work. It's not for you to stay in the love and light community. It's not any of that. It's not for you to be in the
No,
black sheep family, the chosen. It's not any of that. It's for you to get to the top of the box level 10, right? And then you're going to realize when you're on the box isn't the problem. The box was
the
not
box never
even
changed.
on the thing. The box never gave a shit. The box like didn't ask to be here. The box was also a stepping stone within itself. Like,
It was just existing the whole
so
time.
it's just there's Hmm.
But
I
here's
think
the
what
thing.
the
Seriously though, but no.
go ahead, go
Listen,
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
everything you just, no matter what label you give it, no matter what belief system you filter it through, no matter what did you just say? You are negotiating who you are with something outside of you. You're negotiating with the box. You're negotiating with a construct. You're negotiating with your wounds. You're negotiating with being chosen. You're negotiating with being a black sheep or a curse breaker or whatever you want to give it. You're trying to take something and then negotiate and break things down because why? You're not engaging in in being who you say you are. Or are you? Are you saying you're limited? Are you saying you're this? And that's what you're putting out? Is that what you're saying? I can play it from both sides.
I feel like when we get into the undertone of are you who you say you are, I feel like everyone wants to jump to authenticity and
Yes.
go, but I am being authentic. But sometimes that's not, I feel like sometimes that's not the best word because
No.
I feel as though in spirituality, authenticity is often missed, like the mark is missed
Yes, I
because
agree.
it is masked up and it is cornered to
Ye
appear and look like one sort of thing. And then I
yes.
feel like because there's a big emphasis put on that you've succeeded in something when you've reached your authenticity, that often people will convince themselves that they're there before they're actually there. It's like a false it's almost like this false ending is really the way that I wanna say that, like
It is because, like, to me, the way I see the stigma in it is that people are like, "Oh, it's that love, it's that light, it's that kumbaya, it's that nothing ever bothers me." People bring out, and I'm just going to use this as an example. They bring out the Spain scale, right? And they go, the highest, the highest vibration is authenticity. Great. So now you've made it a level. You've just made it your level 10.
anybody who has ever worked with me, watched me on live, gotten a reading, I hate scales.
Yes,
I just in all forms, I understand their necessity. I understand it's a great way for to measure things and weigh things and that there's a purpose to them. But when we start bridging scales into
yeah.
spirituality, it really gets confusing for a
But
lot
not
of
only
people because
sorry.
spirituality isn't linear.
Thank you. But that's it. That's where I was hoping we were going to go with that is because no, but literally, but on whose scale? On whose scale are you weighed? Oh, you mean on whose scale are you negotiating? You're taking energy, right? And we've talked about this before, but energy is not linear, it's fluid. And the second you try to make it linear and put it in a box or put it in a construct or put it on a scale, whose construct, whose scale, whose limits, whose process are you now negotiating with?
And then it just feels like sometimes when we go back and to start thinking about just to start really thinking about the idea of are you who you say you are, you have to almost take a little baby step back and like ask yourself like are you exhausted by being you? Because I always tell everybody, dude, if you are exhausted living your life as you, I'm not talking about work's tiring. I'm not talking about man, the kids were annoying today. I'm not talking about like I'm too tired to cook dinner. No, no, no. I'm talking about if you waking up and you got to put on a face and you think that that's your authenticity and you are exhausted by
It's not.
you emanating an energy that you believe to be yours, that's not your energy, but that definitely is your mask because you are never going to be exhausted or tired by you being you. You can
Correct.
be tired by activities, you can be tired by physical whatever, your human body can be tired, but your soul should never be tired by you being you.
Bridge that out even further, though. Bridge that out to constructs now. How many times have you heard? Because I know I've heard it a lot. It's so exhausting being me. It's so, it's exhausting holding this level of energy or this vibration or this and that. Why are you tired?
It's because you don't
Because
align. That's why you're tired.
it's your mask. You're
Yeah.
holding something. You're forcing yourself to achieve. You're negotiating. I'm up here. Something's down here. Blah 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 blah. Right? Because the thing is, if energy is energy is energy. Now this is where people got to challenge something. It just rhetorical. Don't come for me. Who decided that energy was good or bad? Who decided energy had morality? Who decided all of this? Again, we're weighing it outside of ourselves. We're negotiating it on some kind of a scale or a paradigm or a construct. If it is exhausting to hold a level of vibration because you're around whatever you're saying you're around, right? If you're just being you, it shouldn't be exhausting. Just like you said, B. It shouldn't be exhausting to be you.
And I feel like that's really important, especially when we get into morals and ethics, because that's really how you begin to engage and communicate with energy in general and
Yes,
how you begin to facilitate I almost want to call them works, like works, acts or works or acts. I want to use the word works though, with energy and with your soul and with your spirit and right, like doing a more I don't know why I want to use the word sacred, like doing a more sacred thing than just going through the motion, punching the clock from our humanness, right? I'm not saying you can't have a job. That's not what I'm saying. But everyone knows the feeling of being stuck in a rut and going through the motions
but
versus being present and doing whatever it is you're doing.
use that. Use that. Let's just use a job because a job is great. It's super easy that people can identify with. How many times have you had a job that you didn't like, that you didn't prefer, that was means to an end? Not saying it wasn't a necessity, not saying you didn't need it, but it's exhausting because it's not authentic to you. It doesn't feel right. It's means to an end. It is how you pay your bills. It is this, or this. Great. When you just started talking about, more sacred practices with energy. If we take words out of it, if we take labels out of it, if we take good, bad, and even morality out of it, at its most finite, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. And then as it filters through your humanness, right? Then your humanness is going good, bad, right, wrong, preferable, not preferable, right? It's separating it. When at the end of the day, it just doesn't feel right. I've had countless jobs in my life that didn't feel right. Were draining, exhausting. And the thing was, I was good at some of them. I was fantastic at some of them. But that didn't offset that, right? I walked away from a job that I had for almost 20 years and I was real good at it. I hated going to it. I didn't care if I was good at it. People would even go, well, you could make so much money. I don't care. I don't care. I don't want the money to have to hate my life every day to come do this just because I'm good at something.
I just feel like there's so much of this undertone right now in the "Are you who you say you are?" And a lot of people, I feel like, in the collective are watching almost themselves being challenged in that way
Yes.
of, "Now go emanate who you are.
Yes.
Go put that out in all forms, because everyone wants to emanate their love and light, but your shadow is what keeps you balanced."
Correct.
Right? That side that you hide or you try not to feed or right? Like, you tell yourself it doesn't lie within your morals or your ethics, or to be in balance, you need to be feeding both sides. Now, quantity is up to you depending on how much you're starving one side, or how much you're denying yourself, or how much you're biting your tongue, or how much you've built up pressure in your energy, and that's up to you. You gotta do a little self-assessment.
But
Right.
challenge that even further. How many, if we were just going to do the shadow, right, for a second, if you are having experiences that you don't prefer, if you are in spaces that are means to an end, what part of you is going to be expressed more? Because what's going to happen? Your boundaries are going to be challenged. Your morals or your ethics are probably going to be challenged. So it's not a lesson. It's not a test. It's the are you who you say you are? It's not a flex. It's not ego. It's not any of those
Well,
things.
that's the difference. There's a difference in my mind when we know how we say it, but we
Yeah.
can't always, ensure how other people receive it, right? But it's one of those ideas being like, we're not saying be reactive,
No.
and we're not saying pop off at the mouth. We're not saying, yeah, burn it down, show people who you is. Like, no, 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 no. We're saying be the energy you know yourself to be,
But when
and
you just
what
said
you
that,
need to have happen in the moment, because that's
when,
important.
when
You
you
always say
just
it
said,
all the time.
mhm,
Like, what can you live with?
yes, but that's it. When you are being you, when you are who you are already emanating the energy and the action and all of it that you don't live with regrets. You don't leave things left unsaid. You say what you need to say in that moment, or you at least attempt to, and then you don't have to have regrets, right?
Yep.
You did what you felt was right for you. You are who you say you are. You didn't choose to withdraw and shut down. You chose to speak your mind, right? Even if it's just a, hey, like, can we talk about this? Only for
Well, but
people to
see,
be like,
but that's the difference, and it takes me back to what you were talking about when we first started the podcast a couple minutes ago, and being like, you're not outside of it. And that's the point, because when you ask yourself, what can I live with? You're no longer placing it outside of you, and you're forcing yourself to relate to the issue, the problem, the energy that's confronting itself in front of you, the thing you're witnessing, the thing you're engaging in. You're forcing yourself to be present and decide in the present moment how you would like to handle something. And that sounds so stupid. People are like, I do that all the time. But a lot of times you don't. You go, what would other people think about this?
yes,
Or what, Or what should I do? What was I taught to do? What you're pulling from everybody, and then you devalue yourself. You deprioritize how it relates to you and what you would like to see happen. And then what do you do accidentally? You're starting to radiate everybody else's choice, opinion, perspective as your energy. And a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times, you feel slighted. You feel annoyed that you had to do that because it's not what you wanted to do. It's not what you wished you had to do. There's always, like, I always just feel like there's always a happy medium as long as you're willing to, you know, withstand the natural consequences, you know?
But that's it. And I can't remember the specific quote, but when you were talking, it was bringing me back to that. But I read a quote recently that had something to do with when people, it's basically like, when you waver and you're like tapping into a potential version of somebody else that doesn't really exist. What you're actually tapping into, it was basically saying what you're tapping into is the version of you that would handle that. It's not a version of them that exists that you wish would step forward. It's you pausing long enough to basically second guess yourself and go, well, if I was them, this is how I would handle this. Because if you're just being you, if you're just doing what you can live with, if you're present, you're being, you're just taking the bull by the horns, for lack of a better word, you don't have to wonder. You don't have to wonder. You don't have loose ends to tie up because there are no loose ends, right? You were the loose ends. And that's the part where I'm like, people got to not place themselves outside of it because you are it. You only have loose ends to tie up when you aren't who you say you are. You only have loose ends. You know what I mean? You only have those loose ends. You don't have closure. You don't have, it's not really closure, it's validation. But at the end of the day, it's only once you place yourself outside of something. When you are it and you understand it is you and it is all coming through you, you don't have to go full circle because the only way out was through.
Well, and that's the thing. And it's like, you don't need to spend, like, I feel like by the time people get that, feeling, or they're at that point where they're starting to investigate something that's different than the life they've been living, like how they were brought up, or whatever, construct you found yourself in, religion, this, that, the other, whatever led you to some sort of spirituality or self-discovery to begin with, or healing, or, I feel like. Now, a word from our sponsors. If you are looking for a one-stop shop for all things spiritual, check out the website, www.childofbalance.com. We opened up a Get 5, Give 5 program, and it's all for referring friends and family. We know you guys do it. We want to say thank you because we are always seeing you send your trusted people our way. So visit the website and figure out how you can not only get $5 for doing it, but give $5 to your bestie. Visit www.childofbalance.com. There's no end date. So if you want a one-stop shop for private spaces, spiritual guidance and assistance, mediumship, mentorship, private readings, shadow work assistance, it's all there. If you are looking for a free tree of knowledge where you can learn esoteric wisdoms, breath work, you can learn about yourself, cultures, spiritual hygiene, spiritual practices, spiritual traditions, and you can just learn about almost anything under the sun spiritual for 100% free, check out the website. And you should become a member. If you're not already a member, www.childofbalance.com. It's 100% free. It'll never cost you money. We would never charge you money. The website is about assistance and community. Take advantage of it, fam. It's a great place to go to unlock your spiritual potential. www.childofbalance.com. I really think that's the point, though, is that such a large part of what we end up doing on a lot of these constructs and journeys, and you get really involved in something, whether it be the whole, I don't know, chosen one construct, or the love and light, or the I need to go and, through, shamanistic things and slay my shadow, to I'm expanding my consciousness to Christ consciousness, to whatever kind of construct you find yourself in, whatever sector of religion, whatever you find yourself navigating through right now. There's just really this large pull that you have to realize that over 50% of the time and energy that you were spent doing things is just convincing yourself that the construct itself is possible. And once you notice that pattern with a couple constructs and you start to weave constructs together, you can literally go, oh, if I am spending all of these baby steps, because that's the way I think about it, all these baby steps to kind of help guide us like fucking Hansel and Gretel, right? You reach down, pick up a breadcrumb, another breadcrumb, another breadcrumb, and they're breadcrumbing you along the pathway, right? Of little baby achievements, little expansions, little this, just to be able to get somewhere. But over half of that is you just trying to convince your freaking humanness that it's even possible to begin with.
But see, but to me, that's it. When you were talking about the weaving of things together, for me personally, I started looking at all of the things, right? All of the constructs, all of the beliefs, all of whatever you want to call them. And I'm like, okay, but they're all the same thing in the sense of I need saving something out. There's some hierarchy, there's some process. Like I have to earn something to just be. And I never had to earn anything to be. But it was the realizing that all of these things were to collapse the idea of a self-imposed limitation. And I know you and I have talked about that before on podcast too, and in our own space about, limits, labels, boxes, constructs, whatever you want to call it. But it's like, does anybody ever realize that? I don't know if anybody's looked at it like this before, so I might just get and be a weird keys thing today. But when your knowing gets so loud, and I don't mean in the sense of words, signs, this, that, but when it starts like pushing through so hard, that's when you find yourself exploring something else because you realize how sick and tired of being sick and tired of the imposter you were in this frequency, this timeline, whatever you were tuned into, like you were sick and tired, and your knowing was like, yep, this isn't it. This is definitely not it. Only for you to come over to something else and they get super excited because you're like, well, maybe it's this. So it's like your knowings basically told you you've been an imposter for too long, and then you come over here and explore something else, and then you realize like this ain't it either. All because you keep seeing yourself as separate from something because you keep placing yourself outside of it, realizing like the imposter was always you. It wasn't other people. It's not a karmic. It's not a lesson. It's not an obstacle. It's not a test. It's not a planetary alignment. It's not like your karmic debt. Like all of this has always been, are you who you say you are? You never forgot. You didn't need to remember. Your consciousness was always there because all of these things, like you'd said earlier, they start to contradict themselves. If it's energy, then it cannot be created nor destroyed. Creation is finished. It's already here. You don't have to attain it. You don't have to make it the box like where we started in the beginning. Like the box never changed. The box always existed. You just now have an awareness of the box. Your energy could jump 3 feet in the air until somebody goes, show me, prove it. That's what happens. Somebody goes, prove it. So what just happened? Somebody placed a box in front of you and asked you to prove that you are who you say you are. And that is this entire experience wrapped up in a little bow. It is not somebody is testing you, the universe is testing you, God is testing you. You have to like hit all these parameters and benchmarks, and it's karmics, and it's souls, soulmates, it's soul tie, all the things. No. It's are you who you say you are? Time and time and time again. That is the only thing that plays on repeat is are you who you say you are? But until somebody gave you something outside of you, the box, right? And said, show me. So that's what happens every time. It is your knowing versus your humanness. Your knowing is fluid. Your knowing is who you are. You've never forgotten. You've never, ever, ever fucking forgot who you are. And that's the thing. When people start getting into healing and shadow work and this and their spiritual journey and whatever you want to talk about, right? What is the first thing they say? Well, I was a people pleaser, or, I used to never speak my mind. So what you're telling me is you have full blown awareness that you knew this didn't feel right for you. If we take all of it away, you're telling me, well, I really wanted to speak up, but I didn't. I really should have confronted this, but I didn't. I was negotiating here when I shouldn't have been. So at the end of the day, you've always known who you are. It was just all these filters. And when you got challenged, and that's how I want to say it, you got challenged. Your knowing challenged your humanness and said, are you who you say you are?
You the problem, it's you.
Yes.
And I feel like we say that all the time. But in actuality, what we're really saying is you are the creator of your problems.
You are also the solution.
Y- Yeah, you are the one telling yourself this is an issue. And when we get back to scales and we get back to the linearness of things, that is 90% of your problem.
Yep.
Just think about sometime you really just went off on somebody. Like you really got in an argument. I don't care if it was a friend, if it was a relative, if it was a spouse, if it was a boyfriend, a girlfriend, like doesn't matter what it is.
No.
Just think about one time that you just went fucking nuts and popped off on somebody. You decided in that moment it was a big enough issue,
To let it
and
all out.
you in your wholeness were like, no, fuck this. I don't care if it was before when you thought you were unhealed. I don't care what part of your life it comes from. But at some point, you made a hard and fast decision. You were like, oh, hell no. But you acted in your authenticity.
Facts.
Nobody may have labeled it at the time. People may have called you a dick, an ass, or whatever, right? It probably wasn't appreciated because it came with so much pressure. That holy shit. But at the end of the day, that was your authenticity. Because in that moment, that's actually what you felt.
Yes.
It was a what?
But that's it. It doesn't always look like what people think it's supposed to look like. Your authenticity, you letting it out like you just said, you going, nope, we gonna stand in all of our nests right now, right? It's gonna look different depending on your experience. What is going on in your now moment? It's not just something to achieve. It's not, oh, I finally jumped upon the box. Now I'm authentic. No, no, no. It's going to ebb and flow with you because it's fluid. It's not linear. It can't be contained. You just proved that with the example you just gave. When you try to contain your authenticity, when you try to limit its expression, when you tried to place it in a box, when you tried to place it in a construct, time and time and time again, it has found a way to come out because it was never meant to be contained. It was never meant to be filtered through a label or a belief system because it was never separate from you. And until you stood in it, you placed yourself outside of it. You created the problem. And the second you stepped back inside, you were the solution.
I just wonder how much time we're going to keep wasting.
Yes.
Because the more and more we go around the outside and we go through these little baby steps and we go from one construct to another and we do these little hip hops, and the longer we stay there, the less physical movement we have, right? Like, because we're confining ourselves by rules, regulations, what it can be, what it can't be, what it has to look like, to try to form our certainty for our own sense of self and security, right? But it's like, how much time do we waste by continuously circling the outside instead of getting right to the center?
But that's it. We are. If you're willing to challenge it far enough, you're right, B. You're right.
Like, what if you just chose not to go in any construct?
What if you, but I challenged that like a week or so ago. I said, what if you can just, you know what I mean, in a private conversation. But it was, what if you just told yourself you didn't need any more lessons? What if you told yourself you didn't need any more tests? What if you told yourself you didn't need a healing journey to get to the end, because there is no end? Sorry, spoiler alert. What if you just put it down? What if you just put it down? All of it. Then
But that's the thing, like, if it's because when you look at all the constructs, right, it's really just a series of small, minute decisions
yep,
to lead up to larger decisions, and they feed it to you in small bitefuls at a time. It doesn't matter what the construct is, right?
correct.
I do affirmations to, reprogram, to train myself to start realizing that I'm not a piece of shit, that I'm not a bad person, that I have worth, I have value, I am strong, I am beautiful, I am whatever the fuck your affirmations are, right? I am wealthy, I am this, right? It's changing your perspective, it's changing your lenses, like, right? It's forcing you to listen to something other than your own self-defeat, right?
Yes.
So it's like, instead of just taking small bitefuls at a time, what if you were to just be like, "No, I'm gonna swallow that whole thing."
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to go through all the steps. I'm just gonna make that larger decision. And I know that that sounds that people are like, "That's impossible." If you're looking at it and you're like, "That's impossible," go through the steps because the steps are really what's gonna help you. It's not about what's right or what's wrong. It's the fact that to you, you feel like in the moment that that is too big to swallow. So
You
go
got
somewhere
it
where they're
right.
gonna break
You
it
put it
down.
inside of me.
Yeah.
So what are you doing? You are giving it a process. You are breaking it down. You are making
Yeah.
it digestible for your humanness.
And there's nothing wrong with that,
No,
but that's
no.
actually what it is at the core level of everything.
Yes.
At the core level of everything, because I get I know it's gonna sound so silly, but I always think about this, and this might be nothing like at all what we're talking about. But do you ever wonder why people have all these larger than life questions
Yes.
when the answer to the question that they're asking really doesn't change day to day life on Earth,
Correct.
day to day pattern in your human existence?
Correct.
Because I think about that shit all the time. Does it really matter today or in 2 hours or in 4 days or in 4 months or in 4 years if the earth was flat?
Nope.
Does it really fucking matter? Does it really change if you knew the earth was flat or if we were a sphere?
Nope.
Is that changing how you're going about your life?
Nope.
Like, there's just some of these things that I feel like, um, we, like, almost distract ourselves with.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I feel like some of these constructs, depending on what they are and how deep you get into it,
Yes.
they have their own forms of self-distraction
Yes.
woven into them because they intrigue and, pique our human interest.
But a lot of them, and this is just my observation from my own whatever we call this, um, I noticed that they all have the same our suffering was worth it and someone's coming to save us. Whatever you want to fill the blanket. When we achieve enough, somebody's going to come wave a magic wand and make everything better.
I could I could see that in a couple of them,
It's
yeah.
most simplistic. If we do A, B, C, D, E, F, or G, then this is going to happen. Or flip it around. And I'm not even going to list constructs. You guys can just fill in the blanks for yourself on base whatever you filter through. There's also, if it gets bad enough, something's going to intervene. Okay, again,
Or the other one when it's very self-located, very central focus on self, and it's like, "This is who you are." And then because this is who you are, this is who you can only ever be.
ever be. Yes.
Like, and it's very like, if you fall
Let
in
me
this
tell you that.
category, these are your strengths, these are your
Yeah.
weaknesses, and this is what you're gonna have to live with. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's very like a black and white, let me tell you who you are, and then I'm gonna like
Yes. But
it's
that's
all some sort of a limit, dude. Like,
no,
and I know we say this all the time, but like when you look at it in this construct, you are allowing other people
yes.
to tell you
Yes.
through various systems, through various whatever, who you are. And I was talking to somebody a couple weeks ago, or last week. God, time flies. I don't know what the hell we're at, but like I was talking to somebody, and they're going through like an identity thing, you know what I mean, where they're just trying to figure out who they really are on their authenticity journey. And I feel like so many people we work with get in that stage of like, oh, I don't really know who I am. And I always tell you, it's not about finding who you are, it's about finding who you're not and releasing it
Yes.
because you haven't lost your authenticity. But instead of being like, I need the label, I'm a mom, I'm a good brother, I'm a this, I'm a mechanic, I'm a teacher, I'm a nurse, it doesn't matter what it is, right? Instead of doing all of those things, what if you were like, I'm me? and let your energy speak for yourself.
But that's it.
Because if you just go, I'm me, people are like, what's me? I don't know. I guess you're going to have to find out. Let my energy introduce myself. And
Think
then
about that.
go
Think
be
about
who
further.
you want to be.
You know,
Go be who you want to be. Be your big ass energy. Now, a word from our sponsors. If you are looking for a one-stop shop for all things spiritual, check out the website www.childofbalance.com. For those of you who truly appreciate handmade products, we have a handmade shop. Everything is made to order, blessed, saged, and sent out as quick as possible. We have anything from handmade sounds for meditation to herbal blends like bath teas and dump and go specials to road opener mixes to kits and oils and so much more. For those of you who enjoy taking spiritual classes and courses but maybe can't fit it into your busy schedule, we have self-study courses, and everything can be found in the handmade shop. The website is about assistance and community. Take advantage of it, fam. It's a great place to go to unlock your spiritual potential. www.childofbalance.com.
but you know when everybody's always like, not everybody gets the same version of me. You know when people
Yeah.
make,
Oh, I believe in that
they're
100%. Yeah.
you might be the villain in somebody's story, or you might be this and that. Okay, great, but just take that. When you're just you, you're just you. That's why everybody might get a different version of you. Because you're not matching energy. You're not dropping yourselves down to play reactive games with people. You're not thinking that you're so elevated, you're up here. You're just being you in every moment of every day in your experience. Like, that's it. You're just being you. Being you being you doesn't require effort. It happens effortlessly. You're in flow, you're fluid. It's not hard. If it's hard, that's because you're resisting somewhere.
I just want to tell you, when you said villain in people's stories, I saw this video of this guy in a car. And he was like, everyone wants to make you the villain in their story. And he's like, and I'm okay with that. Because you know what? Come on with your big ass energy. Make yourself the hero. Come on, swoop in. I'm waiting. And I about died.
But think about
Because
that.
that's
You and
the
I had a
truth.
conversation the other day where we were like, you know how some people just get that version of you? Like, there's just some people who get a specific version of you, and that's okay. And there's other people who would tell a completely different story about their experience with you. Guess what? When you're okay with you, when you are who you say you are, you don't care because you know that. You know that about yourself. I promise you, not everybody gets the same version of me, but they always get me. I promise that. You always get me.
Well, but that's the thing. Like, and we've said this in other podcasts and other talks, and and just the idea of you can tap into any past version, any previous version that you want to.
Yes, because it's all you.
And that doesn't change.
No.
You have the ability to tune into that energy, that frequency anytime you want. And it'll be easy, or it will seem easy for you because it's recent past territory, right? I don't truly believe that you're not tapped into anything. Like, I truly believe you have a foothold everywhere, but it's
Yeah.
our humanness, right? Because we have a recent memory, a core memory, and an experience that feels familiar with a certain version, especially in this lifetime with our humanness right now. We find it easy to relate, to call it back, to step back into that energy. So it's one of those things to be like, the past version is still you, and nobody likes to hear that. But you don't just lose the past versions of yourself. You're just increasing an umbrella on top of it that also includes other things, that also expands past just that one version. But
Yeah.
it doesn't negate the one version. You can pull back petty you. You can pull back savage you.
But
You can
hold on
pull
a second.
back mean
But
you.
that's
Like,
where I wanted to go with this. But were you actually being petty, or were you just being you? Was that you standing in your confidence so you want to call that version forward, the unfiltered you, but you called that the unhinged you? No, you was just unfiltered. You just let yourself be. You said what you had to say the way you had to say it without masking up, without being an imposter, without making yourself small. You took up all the space that day. And then you resurrect it forward because it's still you. It's still you. It's not dead. It's not suppressed. It's just not what you're currently tuned into or how you're currently expressing yourself. You can turn that dial anytime you want because it was never outside of you.
Yeah, so it just becomes like, what if you can just cut through it all? You
Yes.
know, what if it's not about that when things come back, it's a test or it's a lesson or you're even meant to like do anything with it? And I know that I can see that in some instances. And I know that that's, you know, for me at least, I notice it when it's that type of an idea of being like, you changed your stance, you changed how you interact with it, you changed this, great. And some people will call that a test or a lesson, and fantastic. But it's just your growth. It's just your difference. It's just, you know what I mean? Like, it's just that you are operating slightly differently than you have in the past.
Yes.
And it just seems like there's a lot of that goes on, that goes around, especially right now. There are a lot of people who we've been talking about it, who people have been bringing it to us, have been reaching out, and they've been just describing the idea and the concept of being like, this is happening around me and I'm having to engage with things that have either been long in my past or have been, you know, coming front and center. And I'm like, what in the hell is going on here? Like, and you have to, like, people say, reintroduce yourself, but really it's just that you're engaging with it from the version you are now.
Yes.
And, you know, from the energy that you are currently housing and currently working with. And I'm not really sure. I'm not entirely sure what you're going to take away from this podcast, because I feel like this has been a jumble of several different things. But I think it's just, at the very least, it's just a permission to be you.
Yes.
Despite how other people might interpret it, might receive it. And that doesn't matter. Like, I don't know anyone to say it. Like, it just doesn't matter. All right, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Spiritual Roundtable with myself, Child of Balance, and Miss Keys of Wisdom 369. And we hope to see you next week for another seat at the roundtable. For anyone else interested in other social medias, the Free Tree of Knowledge, private services, local events, and much more, check out our website, www.childofbalance.com. Until next time, please remember you are to feel your way through everything. Do not stop, do not make yourself smaller, and always continue to be unapologetically and authentically you, because the world needs more of that.